Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Scott Schmelzer.
And I'm Lance Rinker. For the second week in a row, we're coming to you on location, this time from the Champions Room at the Butler Bull.
This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the Butler women's volleyball team is doing its part to raise awareness during every home match in October. Marissa has more on how the Dogs are serving up aces in the fight against breast cancer.
The volleyball team is looking to use October to raise its Horizon League standing and at the same time raise awareness for breast cancer. For the 7th year in a row, the team is dedicating the month to celebrating survivors, honoring victims, and raising awareness for the disease. The Bulldogs had a key 3-game homestand last weekend and were looking to focus on improving conference play. But head coach Sharon Clark realizes the importance of raising awareness for breast cancer.
I think that people are just now realizing how prevalent breast cancer is and how much it's out there. So the awareness that is out there with the NFL and everyone else, it's great because it was really just a women's thing before, and it's not. So I think it's super important for us, especially to be at a college, in a university where young ladies are discovering themselves and finding out so much about themselves. For them, I think it's an awareness about their body and being aware, taking care of their body, and always getting good checkups.
Players will be wearing pink jerseys all month, and some are playing for special people in their lives that have been affected by breast cancer. Junior Gina Vera and sophomore Claire Randich are two of these players.
I played today for my grandma, Margaret Reedy, who battled breast cancer when I was in 3rd grade and unfortunately lost, so that was kind of my motivation to play today.
And then I played for a girl in my sorority's house. She just lost her mom about a week and a half ago to breast cancer, and she fought for, 6 or 7 years in it, and just suddenly went downhill too fast, and so she's actually my big, in my sorority, so pretty close to me, and wanted to play for her.
Randich says remembering her grandmother inspires her to play even harder.
You're aware of it, and I know for me, I write the day that my grandma died on my hand, and so it kind of is a reminder when I'm up at the net that I can look at my hands and know that it's not just me out there, there's plenty of people.
Randich and Vera helped the Bulldogs defeat Wright State, Loyola, and Green Bay during their 3-game homestand. The volleyball team is now 8-12 on the season and 4-4 in conference play. The Bulldogs are tied for 5th in the Horizon League with only 8 conference games left before the league championship.
The Butler men's football team is still searching for answers on how to stop Campbell University's run attack. Campbell University found a way to offset Butler's University quarterback Andrew Huck's 400-yard passing game by running for 250 yards on the ground. Campbell won the game 38-23. The loss for the Bulldogs makes them 3-3 regular season and 1-2 in the Pioneer Football League Conference. Even with the loss, Butler linebacker Jordan Ridley won PFL Defensive Player of the Week by recording 19 tackles against Campbell on Saturday afternoon. The Bulldogs come back home for a matchup with Valparaiso next week with a 1 o'clock kickoff.
Recently, I had the chance to sit down with one of the youngest coaches in the Butler Athletic Department. Stay tuned, Bulldog fans. You won't want to miss this.
Welcome back to the Blitz. Fresh off a 0-0 tie against the UIC Flames, the Butler men's soccer team is preparing for their biggest match of the season. Through 90 minutes of regulation and 2 overtimes, the Dogs could not net a winner against the Flames, giving them a win, loss, and tie in conference. Goalkeeper John Dawson had 3 saves, recording his 2nd shutout of the season. Next up for the Dogs is national powerhouse Indiana. The 10th-ranked Hoosiers have just 1 loss in 2011.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Bulldog Blitz. Today I'm fortunate enough to be joined by the reigning Horizon League Women's Soccer Coach of the Year, Tari St. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me.
First, I want to talk about most recently your 1-0 loss to Cleveland State. On paper, you outshot Cleveland State 15-6, and the stats don't really justify that score. So what happened there, and how are you going to rebound from that?
We have to start off with this one. Yeah, it was a tough game in that I thought we were the better team. I think that we actually played quite well, but soccer, if you give up an early goal against a team that possibly is inferior, that allows them to sit back, defend, put numbers behind the ball, and they did a really great job of it, and we couldn't break that down. I think you mentioned we had 12 corners on the day, and if you would have told me we would have had 12 corners, I would have said at least 2 or 3 goals with the personnel that we have, but it just wasn't our day to put one in the back of the net.
Well, that loss dropped you to 2-2 in conference. So you have a break here until a big match versus Milwaukee on the 15th. Last year you went to Milwaukee and you were the first conference team to beat them in almost 12 years. So a huge win there last year. This year Milwaukee's coming to the Butler Bowl. How are you preparing for that big conference matchup?
Well, I think part of the preparation was beating them last year. I think that kind of load off of our back, that they actually are beatable. It's nice to have, in terms of the experience of the team. We have, like you said, we have a bit of a layoff right now, and we have lots of time to prepare. I think one of the things that we're going to have to focus in on is Sarah Hagan, who could very well be the best college player in the country, in my opinion. We're going to have a pretty hard practice today, and then next week it's just hit it hard for 5 days straight in preparation for what we'll face against Milwaukee.
You mentioned Sarah Hagan. She's Milwaukee's senior forward. Even through 3 years, she broke the Horizon League records for goals and points. How do you try to contain a talent like that?
It's hard. I mean, there's 2 schools of thought. Try to eliminate her and have the rest of the team beat you, or just take your chances and play it straight up. Last year with Kara Burchett on the field for us, when we won, she just did a brilliant job that day. She was just focused. We haven't really decided who yet, but we possibly would have someone kind of take that responsibility that Kara had last year, where you just always know where she is on the field, and you're in her back pocket as soon as she receives the ball.
Well, you're 7-6 on the season this year, I believe, and last year you got off to kind of a slow start before really kicking into gear late in the year, winning 6 of your last 8, getting all the way to the Horizon League championship. So you've got an experienced group that you had a lot of freshmen play last year, and they've been through kind of a slow start, and they know that it's a long season. But your team is still very young. You just have 1 senior, 5 juniors, and the rest are underclassmen. So what is kind of the makeup of this team? Are they a young group, but they have experience? Like, what's the balance there?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think in a nutshell, with the personnel that we have and the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors that we have, and very heavily laden with the freshmen and sophomores. In a nutshell, it's just inconsistency, which is frustrating, because at times you see how good this team could be and then other times on other days it's like, is this the same team that they were 2 days ago? It's just something that we've addressed and talked about as a squad, and even on Wednesday's game, the loss to Cleveland State. I think if we have 7, 8 seniors out there, I think we find our way back in that game. And it's just, finding that consistency of coming out every day and performing at their best, having people step up as leaders. But obviously it's gotten better from last year. We had a team goal of above 500 in the non-conference, which at the time I was like, wow, you want to go from 2-9 to above 500? All right, let's see if we can do it. And we did, with a 5-4-1 record. I think you always want it to happen faster than it will, especially as a coach. But we've definitely improved. We've definitely seen a progression in the right direction, and I think it just is going to take a little bit of patience.
Okay. And while on the subject of upperclassmen, your 1 senior is Natalie Golovska, your goalie. Talk a little bit about her. She was injured last season and sat out the whole year. So how has she rebounded from it?
Yeah, Natalie is a great story. I love talking about that kid. She basically had to stop playing as a field player. I recruited her as a field player, dominant center midfielder, and really didn't get to use her much as a field player through injuries. And she was told that basically she shouldn't play anymore, and kind of come to terms with that. And she came into my office last spring and said, "Can I try goalkeeper?" Yeah. And at the time I thought, great, it'll be good to have a backup goalkeeper. I have no idea how good she's going to be. And she's like, well, I played in U11. And, credit to Coach Edwards, our goalkeeper coach, did a great job with her in the spring, training her. And she's made her way as being our starting goalkeeper. And she's definitely helped us a lot in some games. So, here's a kid that just wanted so badly to be a part of this team and help this team. She just found a way.
You mentioned goalkeeper coach Elyssa Edwards, and I thought that was really interesting. She actually herself was a goalkeeper in college, has the Stanford all-time record for minutes played in women's soccer. So to have that kind of a staff member and the rest of your staff too, how much of an impact does that have on a team?
Oh, yeah, I mean, just the wealth of experience that she's had. I mean, you talked about her Stanford experience. She's played internationally. She's played in Japan. She's spent some time on the national pool team here in the States. And I think you see it. We took a field player and she's turned her into a starting Division I goalkeeper. Yeah. So things like that. Obviously, she also helps with recruiting in terms of getting that top-class goalkeeper recruit that wants a really good goalkeeper training. And you'll find a lot of programs still don't have goalkeeper trainers. So we are pretty lucky to have one as great as she is.
I want to go back and talk about the scoring options on this team. I was looking at last year's statistics, and through 20 games, through the whole regular season, you had 3 players with 3 or more goals. Katie Griswold led the team with 9 last season. And this year, you've already matched that number. There are already 3 with 3 or more through 14 games. Yeah. So is there more of a balance in terms of who can pick up the scoring? Is there less pressure on Katie, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think last year you looked at our 2 threats being get Katie Griswold the ball and see what she can do with it. Yeah. And then also off corners having Jackie Heffley, had the ball in. This year it's much more dynamic. Obviously you still have the threat in Katie Griswold, but when teams key in on her, and she is on everyone's scouting report by now, we have other players that can step up. Which has actually, I think, helped Katie, and I think she will end up scoring more goals than she did last year because of it, that they can't key in on her. So yeah, and it's given our team a lot of confidence too. I mean, in games, even though we didn't come back and win on Wednesday against Cleveland State, you never feel like you're out of a game. When you have that many players on the field that can score goals for you and have an impact on the game, you always feel like there's a chance to get back in, and good teams need to have that.
Okay. One of the scoring threats is freshman Elyssa Kotsakis. She's got 4 on the year, had 1 in the Xavier game a while back. So talk about the new freshman class and how they're adjusting to the regiment. It seems like they've caught on pretty quick.
Yeah, the freshman class was a nice surprise for me. I thought, with returning as many starters and young starters as we were, we didn't really need to rely on the freshman class, like we did last year. But we've ended up with 3 regular starters and Steph Kaler, Elyssa Kotsakis, and Kelly Mahoney, and they've done very well. They've come into a situation where there hasn't been a lot of pressure, like I said, and I think that's helped them be able to just play with confidence. And yeah, Elyssa, to have a goal scorer that comes in and scores goals as a freshman, that's a hard thing to do, and she's done it really well for us.
So at 2-2 right now in conference, you've got to close out the season with this Milwaukee match next. Do you still, your goal is to win the regular season title or at least obtain a good seed for the tournament. So do you feel like your team is still competitive enough to make that push despite somewhat of a slow start in conference play?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more the goal is to beat Milwaukee right now, one game at a time. You saw last year we won the conference with a 6-2 record. I think what we've done is put ourselves in a situation where we're going to need to rely on some other teams doing some things. But first and foremost, we have 4 conference games to take care of ourselves. And I think it's very plausible to win those 4 games. I think we're good enough to beat anyone in conference. We just need to bring that consistency.
Yeah. And lastly, I just want to talk about you as a coach. Last year, you were named the Horizon League Women's Soccer Coach of the Year, which is an incredible honor. And you have a strong strong soccer background yourself. You played in high school, played at Purdue in college, and were coached by Rob Claddy. So through all that, you've developed your own mindset and coaching style. What kind of impact have some of your coaches that you've been coached by, did they have on like your coaching style that you use today?
Yeah, I'd say, you mentioned Coach Rob Claddy from Purdue. Probably the most impactful, influential coach that I've had. And, a lot of my philosophies definitely have derived from being under his tutelage. I obviously played for him for 5 years because I redshirted a year. And then I also had the opportunity to coach there for a few months before I took the job here. And just a great mentor, still is. I can definitely call him up after a game and get his thoughts, and sometimes he has to make me feel better. Sometimes I have to make him feel better about some things. But, the other thing that I've learned too is how important a complete coaching staff is. And, you can't just rely too heavily on just being the head coach. I talked earlier about Coach Edwards, Rick Huffman, and Rob Allman. I think we have one of the best staffs around, and they each bring something to the table. And so that's something that I definitely, over the years, I think this is my 7th year or 6th year, have learned very quickly is you need to have good people on your staff, and I think we've done that.
Analyzing yourself for a minute, what would you classify your coaching style as? Are you more of a hands-off kind of coach, or are you like yelling? I mean, are you a player's coach kind of thing, or are you like more hard knocks, that type of school of coaching?
I think it's more, I want our players to play with confidence. And I think depending on the individual, you just have to find your way to make sure that they're playing with confidence. And finding those teaching moments and deliver those teaching moments in a way that doesn't disrupt, like I said, that confidence. Because soccer and most sports, it's a game of playing with confidence. And I also definitely allow our assistant coaches to have a hand in things because I think that they have a way of delivering things in a different way than, say, the head coach who is ultimately making the decisions, and it's a different pressure situation. So.
All right. Well, that will conclude our interview with women's soccer head coach Tari St. Thank us again for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back with more Bulldog Blitz after this.
High school softball got to show off their talents to the Bulldog coaches on Sunday at Butler's annual softball camp. The camp was run by Butler head coach Scott Hall and was attended by some current Butler softball players. It was broken into 3 sessions: the pitching session, the infielders and outfielders session, and the hitting session. Approximately 15 players showed up to the afternoon infielders and outfielders sessions. Players were welcome to attend any and all of the sessions. The camps held in previous years have attracted potential prospects for the Bulldogs. 5 freshmen on this season's squad, including outfielder Sarah Ganowski, attended at least one camp before coming to Butler.
Definitely. Being here, you learn new drills that you can work on at home to improve, along with you meet the coaches and you get to know them better and what they like to see, because he'll correct us on stuff and okay, I need to work on that to impress him.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Scott Schmelzer.
And from inside the Champions Room here at the Butler Bowl, I'm Lance Rinker. We'll be off next week for Butler's fall break, but we'll see you right back here October 24th.